one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. That one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And
Dr. King played a huge role in social equality during the Civil Rights Movement. Unfortunately, he was assassinated for standing up for a change in America at the time. I have interviewed my father, Terrell Bolton, who actually lived during the Civil Rights Movement, and he is going to talk to us about the change in America during his life period.
Growing up in Mississippi for a young African-American male was very challenging during the Civil Rights era. I was born in 1958 in a little small town in Richton, Mississippi, it was called. This town was made up of about 2,000 people, which was typical of a lot of your southern towns and villages during that time. I lived, of course, during an era where segregation and social injustice was the call of the day. For example, when I grew up early until I reached the 7th grade, we were not allowed to attend the same schools as Anglo children. Quite naturally, bathrooms, I witnessed white-only fountains where you could not drink out the fountain that was labeled white only. You could not even go in the same restroom as white only. And I remember my sister having a little part-time job as a student. And the irony of this, I'll talk about in a little bit, was she served hamburgers at this little cafe. And my dad and I were not allowed to eat in the same area where she served whites. We had to go to the back of the restaurants where a designated area was designated for what we call back then colored, which would mean African Americans today. A little story about that. My sister Vicky ended up getting a doctorate degree from Mississippi State in Mississippi after enduring that kind of social injustice and hardship that we all endured. Mentioning Vicky, I also came from a family of 8 children. My dad and mom, my dad was a scrap iron dealer. My mom was a domestic worker. Neither one of them finished high school, but they established such high standards and expectancy for us that of the 8 children in my family, they produced 3 police chiefs, 1 doctor, Dr. Vicky Neal, as I mentioned earlier, a retired colonel from the Army, Shirley Bolton, a healthcare executive, and my sister Linda, and another assistant chief in law enforcement. Had a brother Dennis that he was a custodian. He picked his way in life. He probably, of all the children in the family, endured the most as it relates to social injustice. Actually, I recall a time when they had gone to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, and returning from a trip, he was known for having his music. He loved music, and he played a song that an Anglo young male didn't like, and of course he started a fight after they returned from the Senior Bowl in Mobile, which caused a riot at our school over the next week, and my brother was taken away by law enforcement and was not revealed his identity or where he was, his location, for over 2 weeks. And so the NAACP had to get involved to retrieve my brother. Actually, for no reason. He was hid out because the Klan had threatened to burn our house down and to kill my family. So those are some things that came out of that era for me. But one thing that was really clear for me and my family, we were never taught to get even. We were taught to get ahead and to live well. And so I think that provided the foundation for my family to achieve in a society that had tied one hand behind our backs. But we didn't use that for an excuse. And I think as you see what happened in this recent election with President Barack Obama, it tells you that our country has a conscience and our country has a heart, and that even with our wicked past, we can still move forward and provide if you will, a step ladder for those who want to achieve and to do well. I think our country has come a long way, having been appointed the first police chief, African-American police chief in the city of Dallas's history. Of course, I had to relive some of the same things that first African-Americans across this country have lived, and I'm no more unique than anyone else. And it's important that when you are blessed to be in those positions, that you make a difference. You may not survive the difference making, but God has provided an opportunity for you to have a season to make things better. And every day that I went to work as police chief in Dallas, I often thought about times that my mother would leave us and go get advancements on her pay for the day to ensure that we had breakfast. And so I understand that. And when I went to bed at night and I prayed for the 5,000 plus families that I were responsible for, I never lost sight of that. And as I sit today, I'm very proud of my children. The Lord has blessed me with, particularly my daughters, Taylor, out of my brother's music love. Maybe that's where she got her genes to sing opera. She received a scholarship at the University of Oklahoma in vocal performance. And this past summer, she sang where Beethoven had performed. And I want you to think about that. A child that came out of a generation where their grandparents was a scrap iron dealer. Her grandmother was a domestic worker. Her dad started out at the bottom and became the first African-American police chief in the city of Dallas history. Her uncle had to endure the indignity of being threatened and taken away from his home for weeks because of his love for music. Thank God that he stood for the right things, and now my daughter has had the opportunity to share those genes and to use those genes to perform in the same setting where Beethoven performed. And so, you know, you have to be really careful how one treats people in their lives, because irregardless of what your faith is or what your political views are, God has a reason and a season for all of us. And that little example of Taylor is one to stick out. Tell a little story about Morgan, my baby daughter, who's doing this project. Morgan was always a quiet baby, but she was an active baby. And I think back to those genes where a number of my family had athletic genes in their background. And I think, first of all, of Ruthie Bolton Holyfield, who Olympic gold medal winner. I like to think that's where Morgan got her basketball genes. Outstanding player at the University of Auburn, went on to play in the WNBA for the Mercury Monarchs, won gold medals, as I mentioned. And they all came out of the same scenario or backdrop, if you will, that I came out of from Mississippi. Those genes has produced a point guard for the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. So I think we all have different stories about the movement and about our country and where we are today. But it's important to note that we still have a long way to go, even at this stage in our lives where we've elected the first African-American president in our country's history, and we actually re-elected the first African-American president in our country's history. I think that's very significant for a number of reasons. It would take you months to explain it all, but I will say this. All of us will not achieve the enormity of God's gift to all of us until we learn to live and work together, irregardless of what your race is, or irregardless of what your religious background or what your affiliation is, or whatever your beliefs are, or whatever your belief system is. We have to learn to get along and to cheer for people in other areas, even when we disagree with them. I like to think now that there are a lot of bridges that have to be crossed for equality for women, still for African Americans and other minorities, the various institutions. Give an example: the judicial institutions, the newspapers, that institution, the media. You look at the banking and financial institutions, all need to have some kind of adjustment toward equality in those areas. And for the people that want to come into this country and raise a family and play by the rules and do the things that's necessary to raise their family, the Statue of Liberty is our backdrop for let those all come, all of them who want to come in and do good and make a difference in our country. I'm glad I live in the United States of America, and I hold true to the preamble of the Constitution of our country. And I really believe in equality and justice for all, and I think we can all reach that and then have the same enjoyment of lives and peace and tranquility as we live our lives the way that we want to live them. No other better place than the United States of America. And I was honored to give this interview for the University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Thank you.
Look how far we came. Look how far we came. Through the fire I stood knowing we would reign. Feels like yesterday when all this was a dream. Yesterday. Through these Maybach curtains I see how life has changed.
Maybach music.
Look how far
I think I'ma dedicate this one to all the people that thought I wouldn't make it here.
I stood knowing we would reign.
Dream chaser.
It feels like yesterday when all this was a dream. Through these Maybach curtains I see how life has changed. Yeah.